Hello, everyone. We are here. We are live, and it is great to be back. I really appreciate the flexibility of everyone because we were planning to do this yesterday, but I had a trip that I ended up taking and couldn't get back. So Nicholas adjusted and he was willing to come Thursday. And then I also had another person who is joining us today who is very flexible and agreed very last minute to come on and talk. But I have a feeling the topic was something that definitely was an incentive for him to come and talk because you were telling us, Kobe, that this is a topic that really gets you going.
Yeah, I was telling him before we got on, if you really want to get my blood boiling, then be a racist,
Yeah.
because that just don't fly with me. So
Yeah.
I've got a backstory on that. So
Okay. Okay. Yeah. So the topic we'll talk about today does kind of um, it kind of
mm,
does overlap with the concept of racism
yeah,
and it had to do with something that happened at the PCA General Assembly. And Kobe, you're in a PCA church, right?
I am.
So
I'm in Trinity Presbyterian.
so you heard about this event.
I did. I wasn't there for it. I did go down to the General Assembly. I'm not a teaching elder or a ruling elder, but I did walk in. They didn't check anything. So I listened to a little bit of their proceedings to see how they do things. I did shop while I was there, and I was trying to find it. I did pick up this handy little Westminster. Well, the camera you can't see real well. The lighting's horrible,
Ooh.
but it's the Westminster Confession in a leather type. Anyway, it's Banner of Truth puts it out. This little pocket-sized edition. It's just a nice edition. I have the 1689. Um, and I thought that surely they make a Westminster, and they do. So I picked that up because the one I have is just a paperback, like your old Sunday school quarterlies. I'm giving my age away here. But when I was a child growing up in the Baptist church I grew up in, they called them quarterlies, which was the quarter for your Sunday school material, and it was just a paper, with like a shiny, like a glossy, kind of like what Bible maps are on in Bibles now. The glossy, front and back cover, and then the paper on the inside. So that's what my Westminster is. And I thought I would like to have a nice one. My goal is to get a rebound one day. So we'll see.
Ooh.
Yeah, I have a rebound Valley of Vision, so I just need a rebound Westminster, and I'll be good.
So just so everyone knows, as they're coming in, Kobe Muncie, our guest with us here, is he likes Bibles a lot, as do all of us here that are in this discussion,
Hmm.
and he has a Bible review channel, and so we we've talked about your channel before, but in case people don't know, it's Rural Bible Reviews,
It
right?
is. It is.
And didn't you have a Bible that you reviewed on your channel today?
I did. I record on Thursdays and drop the videos on Fridays. Where I work, I'm off on Thursday and Sunday, so I'll record on Thursday, and then just upload the video and everything, and it just drops Friday at 12 noon Eastern. For those of you here, I'll give you a sneak preview of it. Blue is one of my favorite colors, if not my absolute favorite color. So I got a Humble Lamb, New American Standard 2020, in the new Ocean Blue. And I'm going to see how many feathers we can ruffle here. And I was showing them beforehand. You got a little second commandment violation going on for all my reform brethren. Um, I wrestled with that, but like I said, that's not Jesus. I know that's not what he looks like, and I'm not going to worship that. So I feel like I'm good on that. It's
Yeah.
but the layout of the Bible is just beautiful. So
Mm,
that's my first Humble Lamb I've ever seen in person, and they do good work. And if you read their story and what they do a lot of mission work with India. So every purchase of a Bible, they give Bibles out to people in India. They do a lot
Yeah.
of humanitarian efforts and share the gospel and things in India. So I believe in that. So
They also, you probably already know this, brother, but just for people listening, they also do a completely blacked out Edge version
mhm,
as well.
they
So
do. They
if
do.
you
They
do
don't
struggle with
offer it
that,
in that one. Yeah,
yeah,
they don't offer it in that one. But he
yet
actually,
takes time.
yeah, yeah, it's going to come. He actually said that they had done away with just the regular art gilding because they didn't sell as many of them.
Hmm.
He said it's mainly the forage, I think is what they call that. But he
Hmm.
said that he's got a lot of emails and people are wanting it. He said so there's enough of a market for it. He probably won't produce as many, but he will start producing the ones with the regular art guild for people that don't want one like that. So
Yep.
Well, I feel like the Humble Land Bible is one of the kind of things that stands out about them is they're very visually oriented with
hmm
pictures. So
yep,
they have the Gustave Doré
hmm
illustrations throughout a lot of their Bibles. So
yep,
it's not surprising that they would have,
yeah,
artistic work on the edge, on the
right.
page edges.
Right. Yeah. And it's well done. I mean, it's and I think it's neat how you can see it in the gold, but then when you open it up and the gold kind of, fades, you still see the artwork and
Image.
everything. So,
That's
so
cool.
yeah, it's very nice. They do a good job with their Bibles. So,
That's
but
great. Well, I do see we have a group watching here, and I know that we got a hello from Colt. I'll put him up here. Colton, good to see you there. Um, Colton is someone who's come on our channel before, and it seems like the guests we have had currently, there's been a lot of Presbyterians. So I got to get Colton back on here to get another Baptist to, because we always have to keep this. Nicholas is Presbyterian, or that's the direction he's moved in.
Not
So,
yet. Yeah.
we try to, I know, not officially, but pretty much he's a Presbyterian.
Pretty
So
much. Pretty
we try
much.
we try to keep an even playing field. We have Presbyterians on quite a bit. Next week we have another Presbyterian on, Dr. Matt Everhard, and he's
oh,
going to come
nice.
on. Yeah, he's going to come on and talk about his book, Worshiptainment, and
Yeah.
anything else that is a current topic that he wants to talk about. He
He
discusses a
he's a
lot
great
of
guy.
things on his channel. Yeah,
Yeah.
he just
I,
had a guest on that I don't really know much about him, but someone who wrote a book about the abolitionist movement, and this is talking about abolishing abortion, just so everybody
right.
knows. And it's possible we'll have that author, also come on our channel, and
Yep.
he's probably Presbyterian too.
Probably.
Hmm.
Maybe.
Yes,
Potentially.
Yeah.
yes. I think I read about that he's at 10th Presbyterian Church in Philadelphia.
Okay.
So, yeah, Nicholas, I'm starting to see a pattern here.
Hmm.
This is getting to be more and more Presbyterian.
We're secretly converting you. You
See,
just don't know it yet.
Colton,
I
help
met
me out. Colton.
I got to meet Matthew at the General Assembly. Uh, very nice man. Very
Hmm.
nice man. It was an honor to meet him. So, um, very tall man. He's a little bit taller than me. I'm 6'1". He's probably like 6'2". So, but very very polite man. Very studious. You could just you know yeah. What you see online is him in person.
That's awesome. Now you're talking about Matt Everhard.
Hmm.
Yes, yes. Matt Everhart. I'm
Yeah,
sorry. Yes.
yeah, and you said that you saw him at a general
General Assembly.
assembly, but this wasn't this year's.
No, it was this year's. Yeah.
Oh, you
Yeah.
were you were there at the general assembly.
Yeah. That's what I was saying. I went there. This is the first time it's been close to me. Like I only live like, well, I don't want to give away where I live. I live like 30 minutes outside of Chattanooga. So,
Okay.
yeah,
Yeah, it's funny, and you also say he's tall. I met Tim Wildsmith a few years ago for the first time, and
hmm
found out he towers above me. See, we're all equal when we're on YouTube. We're
yeah,
just sitting there, and we can position our cameras. But in real life, It's going to shock everyone. I'm pretty short. So even you, Kobe, you would be towering above me at 6'1". What about you, Nicholas?
5'9".
Okay, you're still taller than me.
Oh, okay.
But you're getting closer. At least you're in the 5 foot
Yeah.
range.
Yeah.
Uh,
Now, the good news is we are now actually live on my channel. I worked out what was wrong.
Wow. So that's another way people can also now join us is on Nicholas. Now, what's your channel called? Is it your name?
The layman apologist.
The Layman Apologist.
Yeah.
Thank you.
The only thing I would say, it is good. However, for those that are in my chat, come over to Tim's channel because that's where the actual chat is. Because I won't be monitoring my chat.
You'll be talking to yourself if you're
Well,
chatting.
Tom, who comes onto both of our streams, he's currently over there at the moment talking. But I'm telling him to come over here because that's where the main chat is, and there's no point going back and forward. So
All right. So as we're kind of settling in here, we are going to get to our main topic. It's actually something I thought we might get to last week, but we didn't because you guys had so many questions for us when we did our ask questions from the audience that we ended up having time this week instead. But it's great because we got Kobe on here, and he's in the PCA, so he can. Now, did you say you weren't there, Kobe, for this particular interaction that we're going to talk about today?
no, I wasn't there for it. Like I said, I had to work that week. I did go down for one of the days, but I got up the next morning though after it happened and got on X and saw that he was in my trending. You know how you have the For You now, so things you kind of follow. It's not necessarily
Mm-hmm.
what's trending. I saw that he was trending, and I was like, oh, what did he do? I was like, he had to have done something. Maybe he rapped, or somebody where people recognized him and were hip hop fans, and and all.
That's how
It's like,
that's how he should
oh,
have. That's how he should have raised his point.
well,
Actually,
what's
he should
funny
have been
is
around.
someone has taken that clip and put a beat behind it with him delivering it, and I'm like, that's perfect because that's who Brindle is. He's a
That's
rapper,
great. That's
so
great.
yeah.
Oh man, that's
He's a
great.
great guy
Well,
too. I've had the honor of meeting him a few times, and he is a super nice guy.
thanks. Yeah, I as we get talking about this in more detail, we'll try to fill in everybody on like
Mm-hmm.
what the specifics are, so that you can follow. But basically, it's a discussion that happened at the PCA General Assembly.
Mm-hmm.
But before we get to that, I just like to throw out some interesting things for us to react to. Nothing that I gave you guys a heads up on, but just
never.
stuff to warm up our conversation.
I don't need any
The
more.
first one is from.
I don't need any warmer, Tim.
Uh,
You're ready. You're ready.
I am roasted.
Yeah, I know. I know. It's 75 degrees Fahrenheit where you are, isn't it?
It's just I don't think people understand. Like our homes over here are quite literally built to trap the heat. So as warm as it is outside, it's nearly double that inside. And like you can have the fan on, you can have windows open. It doesn't make a blind
Hey,
bit of difference.
hey, I feel you. I'm in New England. We build our homes to retain heat.
Yep.
Very difficult in the summer months.
Mm-hmm.
Totally
yeah,
understand.
it's 83 degrees where I'm at right now.
Yeah.
So, but it was
And can we
warm.
also say, uh, Kobe, remind me again, are you in Tennessee?
I am. I'm in the South.
Okay.
So.
Yes.
So it may be 83, but it probably feels like 183
Yes.
because it came a very hard downpour about 40 minutes ago, and it dropped the temperature from like high 80s to low 70s. You walk outside, you're like, oh, this is nice. And then the rain stops and the sun comes out, and I can look out my window and see the steam
Yes.
because now it's a
It's
now
like
it's a sauna.
98% humidity. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, it's
What I was
very
going to
sneaky out
say
there.
though is that you are very used to heat where you live.
Yes, but that
So
doesn't mean I like it.
no, I can imagine. Yeah.
I am not. I mean, I'm a bigger guy, but even when I was, younger and smaller, and I've never enjoyed the heat ever. I hate, loathe, and despise the heat. To me, fall is the perfect time
Yep.
of the year. One,
I
I'm
was going to ask.
surrounded by mountains, and the colors are beautiful, and
Mm,
just it's not too hot. It's just perfect. So
I was going to ask what you think about cold.
cold doesn't bother me that much. I'm the type person at my job. We can wear shorts. I work in a mailroom, and the mailroom itself is air conditioned, but I'm in a warehouse that isn't climate controlled. So like walking from the mailroom to the bathroom, you're walking down a hallway where it's not climate controlled. So you're in a room that's like 71 degrees, which is still warm for me. I keep my air like when I go to bed tonight, I'll have four fans going. It'll be 68 degrees. Um, but
I could do with three of those fans right now.
yeah, but I walk down a hallway that's not climate controlled, so it's very like you walk out there and it's just instantly, you're sweating just walking to the bathroom.
Mm.
But yeah, I wear shorts up until about December.
We
So
talk.
yeah,
We I feel like we've talked about heat for the
I
last
Well,
know.
3 weeks
I,
on
I,
our
I,
channel.
I was going to say just before you get on to what you want us to get on to, Zach wants Kobe to know that it's 94 in his end.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah, it's yeah. I know. It was
It's
like that here last week. So
everybody.
yeah.
Everybody always has to like outdo. Like, oh yeah, it's
Oh
94. And
no,
someone from Arizona, as soon as we know we're going to have Arizona in the comments soon. It's
yeah, but see that
105
that
here.
heat's different. That heat's
It's a
different. The
dry
dry
heat.
heat versus the humidity. I mean, I know it's still heat, but no.
This is
Mm,
this is the conversation that always ensues. Is like, yeah, but my heat's worse than your heat.
yeah, but I thank God for air conditioning. So
Yep. Yep. Well, what have you
All
got
I'm
for us,
right.
sorry,
Tom?
Nicholas.
So the first thing is a post from layman apologist.
Oh, surprise, surprise. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
This dude looks like Todd Frill if he was locked in a room forced to binge watch. But that made me laugh a lot. So for those of you who don't know,
Do you not see Todd
this
Frill?
is
he,
Todd
yeah.
Friel.
But Todd's got a beard now, right?
He does, yeah, and he's
Yeah,
got long
yeah,
hair.
yeah.
So yeah, I see it.
I see it too. That's
You
Christian
know,
Bale, isn't it?
I can't
I
picture.
think
I
so.
mean, I can't imagine Todd actually smoking like that, but
If
I
he
don't
was having
know.
to listen to Bethel, he would.
Yeah, it's the man's only released him. He's locked in a room.
Uh,
I don't know.
what's Todd's denomination?
I think he's
Ah,
Baptist.
yeah, I was going to say, I do think he
Oh,
is
okay,
Yeah, he's
SBC.
he's
Calvinistic
Baptist.
Baptist. Yeah, yeah,
So he might be he might be a little more strict on some of those things.
yeah.
Smoking,
Yeah, don't
I
drink,
don't
don't
know.
smoke, don't chew, and don't hang out with those that do.
Although, although
Yeah,
from what
right.
I've heard him say, like, I don't know if he does it personally, but he doesn't take issue with those that do. So I don't
Mm,
know.
Yeah, that's more my approach too. I think those are matters of
no,
conscience, and also evaluating. You know, what does the Bible directly teach us about those things? And
mm,
certainly, there were people drinking alcohol in the Bible. Although I'm sure there are some Christians out there that would try to somehow circumvent that
look,
and
Jesus read the King James and drank Welch's. We all
and
know
drink
it.
Welch's. Yeah, right. Right. So let's. Okay. So this one. This is to me just a really good example of the kinds of theology, like I call it Twitter theology, where people just throw out statements
Mm,
and it just it's so. This is why I don't like writing things on Twitter because it's really hard to make clear statements
Mm-hmm.
But they what they do is they write these kind of inflammatory, or they're trying to make a point,
Mm-hmm.
and yet the point that they're making, it just doesn't come across right. So this struck me that way, but I'll see what you guys think of it. I'm pretty sure that you're not going to agree with this person.
Oh.
It says Jesus is not your boyfriend in quotes. Correct. He's my fiance. We are betrothed.
So this is a mutual of mine.
Okay.
So
Yeah, so let me also say I've seen this person write on Twitter, and
yeah,
I do agree with certain things that they write about. So this is not to like attack them, but
yes.
but since they put it out there, I thought it's a good discussion starter.
Well, you already have my view summed up in the very first comment by
Hmm.
Lewis. The church is the bride,
Yeah.
collectively, not
Mm-hmm.
individually.
Mm-hmm.
I also I know autocorrect doesn't mean anything bad by this, but it's just it's a little bit sloppy. Um, and yeah, I think there was a few because I saw this earlier today. It's a sentiment that will especially make males cringe. Um, because individually, I am not Christ's bride. I am part of his bride, but I am not his bride. So
Yes. I definitely was thinking along those lines too. What did you think, Kobe?
Yeah, I'm with Nicholas on that. 100%. That's yeah, that's just not a yeah. The autocorrect didn't work in that on that tweet.
So here's the thing. What both of you said is exactly what I thought, but here's the way that I would put it. If a man wrote that same tweet, it would not come across the right way at all.
see, that's the thing. I don't think a man would
Yeah.
write that tweet,
Well,
and I think
if
that's what
they're
a
the
lot of
PC
people
USA, they would.
perhaps, but I think that's what I
Sorry,
haven't
Bill.
read. I haven't read all the comments since I saw this earlier, but the few that I did see from the guys was pretty much like, yeah, no, no, thank you. So
So it's trying to counter this concept of like when people, I'm guessing like, people are complaining about talking about Jesus as your boyfriend, but then this person's saying, well, actually, he's my fiance. Oh, and another thing that makes this very, very Twitter-esque. Again, this is not to attack the person writing this, but it happens online. That's also the feminine form of fiance.
mhm.
So that's the other thing that happens on Twitter all the time, is that people will write something, and sometimes it's like autocorrect will actually change what they wrote,
Not
and it'll
autocorrect
make their
person.
yeah, right, not the autocorrect. This is getting very confusing. I meant the autocorrect feature uh, will correct when they're tweeting, and then they'll end up saying something they didn't even mean to say at all. But regardless of the spelling, um, yeah, I think it just really doesn't communicate. I get that the Jesus is my boyfriend. There is a lot of discussion about that, and
Hmm.
I think even that has a lot of merit to it because how should we talk about the risen Christ? If
Right.
you look at the book of Revelation, I don't think John, when he's there seeing Christ in his glory, is there's no lightheartedness about this, right? Like, he is falling at his feet.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so there's that issue. But I agree with what you guys said.
Yeah.
I think even if we can, and I do think we can address God in a personal way, and we can speak to God in
Personal.
ways. Yes, go ahead.
Personal, but not irreverent. And I'm not
Yeah.
suggesting that's what autocorrect was doing. I'm just saying
Right.
we all people that are more active on X, like X is the platform that I'm most active on. We can all have a moment where we're like, this probably sounded really good. Oh yeah, Jesus is not my boyfriend, but he is my, and typing it out. It probably sounded good, but you really do have to stop at times and go, hang on, let me think, is this like accurate?
Yeah.
Now,
Right.
I don't know. Perhaps autocorrect would still stand behind her statement that she has yet to address it. Like I see she's commented a couple of times here. She says the church is a body made up of individuals. Correct. However, it's the collective that make the bride, not the individual. Like I cannot individually say I am the bride of Christ. I can say I'm part of the bride of Christ, but I am not the bride of Christ because it's the church that will be presented without spot, blemish, or wrinkle, not just me.
Yeah.
So, I personally, no harm to her. I just think it was quite sloppy.
Hmm.
And I'm sure if she thinks through it
Yeah.
and accepts, the criticism that people are, because not all criticism is bad, and that's something I think sometimes just on X especially, you can receive criticism, but sometimes if it comes from people you don't know, you are slower to receive it. So hopefully, someone that knows her will, maybe say, "Hey, look, that wasn't the best
Hmm.
statement."
All right.
Yeah, and again, this is not to. I wasn't even bringing this up to like.
Yeah, yeah,
I get it. We're people are post. Although Colton said something funny here,
He
I
did.
might as well bring this up. He said I post nothing but absolute bangers on X, Layman. I don't know what you're talking about. So
I like his previous
other
comment
than
too.
Colton,
Yeah.
most people will write things on X that at times they're like, oh, I guess that didn't come across the right way. So there's
He
nothing, like we're not personally attacking.
Yeah,
well,
he has a previous comment that was funny too. That reminds me of a church here that I go by every day. Can you pull that one up?
Yeah,
Uh,
let me get us up here so you're not blanked out by it. Oh, that's still.
oh,
Let's
it's
try this.
fine. If I'm blanked out, nobody wants to look at me. I show my
There we
hands
go.
on my review
There we
channel
go.
for a reason. Yeah, yeah.
There was a
There was a
church in
church.
my town
Yeah,
growing up that had a sign, our out front. Not now. Oh, hot now, die without Jesus. Yeah,
yeah,
so it's true, but also kind of weird to say. Yeah,
yeah. There's a church I drive by every day coming home, and it's a local IFB church. And on their sign, they've had it up now for I don't know a month. It says "Summer is hot, but hell is hotter," and I'm just
yeah,
like.
yep,
Yeah, I call some of these church signs dad jokes. They are just
right.
bad dad
we,
jokes. Like there for a while, one of the local churches had a fall for Jesus. He never leaves. This was up during autumn or during fall, and I'm like, really? Hey, come on, guys.
yeah.
Can you not put something else up? Besides that. I mean, just put a Bible verse up.
It's cringy for Christians. Never mind the
Hmm.
atheists that say it, because atheists find anything Christian cringy anyway. But like, what we don't have to do is give them extra ammunition.
Right,
You
right,
know,
and that's extra ammo.
for
We're
sure.
good at that.
Yeah.
We're good at that. Yeah.
Yes.
There's plenty of things that churches do that are easy to poke fun at. But there's no doubt there's a line that gets crossed. Like those churches that do those plays, those musicals. I'm pretty sure Matt's going to bring that up next week, where they're
Oh, I'm
like,
sure.
yeah, they're doing like Batman representing Jesus or something weird like that.
Ugh.
Oh yeah, you have the book.
I do.
Yeah, I
It's on
started
my
reading
list to
it,
read
so
next.
I gotta
Yeah.
try to get that finished up before next week.
Yeah.
Um, so that's just asking to be criticized by. It's funny because they're trying to reach the outside world,
Yeah.
but oof,
Yeah. Yeah. That's not the way to do
Well,
it.
there's an old phrase: "What you win them with is what you win them to." So if that's how
Yeah.
you bring people into the church, that's what it's going to keep them there, and that's why those
Yep.
things continue and exist. So
Yep.
absolutely. Well, let's get on to our main topic here. The reason Kobe wanted to, or the main thing Kobe wanted to talk about today, right? So
Hmm.
just to set this up, I think what I'll do first is just talk about. I'm going to pull up the clip here,
Yeah, I was going to ask if you had the
and
clip.
we can just try to fill everybody in on like who the people are
Hmm.
and what's going on here, and then I'll play it so that they can hear what Timothy Brindle says. So Timothy
Hmm.
Brindle is one of the attendees of the PCA General Assembly here,
Yep.
and different people are going up to the microphone to discuss the issue at hand. And I believe it was someone was being voted as to whether to continue in a certain position, right?
Yes.
But I don't know the particulars. What was the position?
So the position is the mission to North America, and the African American gentleman sitting up there is Irwin Ince, and he is the gentleman that they were voting on to keep him for another. I don't know if it's 1 year or 2 years. Um, so keep him in that position, and up, and I'm sure everybody recognizes the man behind the big podium there, the tallest. That's Kevin DeYoung. And if you don't know who he is, he's a very intelligent man. He's wrote a lot of books, a lot of articles. He's a Presbyterian pastor. I know that when I attended Together for the Gospel in 2018, after his sermon, the Babylon Bee came in and said everyone in attendance earned their doctorate after Kevin DeYoung's sermon. Because, you
Wait a
know,
second. Was that the one on the immutability or the something like the um, what was the word he kept using? It was definitely talking about an attribute of God,
I can't
wasn't it?
remember anyway.
I don't know if it was him.
Yeah. Well, that's what I seem to because I was at a lot of those conferences myself too. You said
Yeah.
Together for the Gospel.
Yeah,
Yeah.
2018. That's the last, well, not the last one, but that's the only one I got to go to. So,
Yeah. It had to do with immutability of God or something like that.
yeah, that was also the year that David Platt came out as woke. So, for everybody to see.
Yeah,
Right.
Uh,
Those were tough years for sure.
yes, they were.
A
But I
lot
got to see
of
John
culture.
MacArthur in person. I just wish that R.C. Sproul would have been alive and I could have seen him in person. That would have been the, the bucket list for me. But
well, you'll get to see him in glory.
that's right. Amen.
Uh,
But yeah, that's what's happening here. And also, I don't know how much of Timothy's background that you know, but most people know him as a rapper, but he is a teaching elder at his church. I believe it's called Olivet Presbyterian Church is the name, or Olive Street, maybe. But Timothy is also married to an African American woman, or a black woman, and they have like 7 kids. So keep that in mind.
Hmm.
oh, look at this. I just feel like I should share this because I actually
Yep, there you
remembered
go. Yep,
the
there you
God who is
go.
not like us. Why we need the doctor. Here's the reason I remember it because I had a friend with me, a layperson from our church, and he was like, "Wow, what was that?" Because he was really just learning all like this new theological
Yeah,
terminology he had never heard before. So that's why
yeah.
Babylon was teasing. Yeah.
Yeah.
So he's the
Babylon
one
Bee.
moderate. He just became the moderator, right? Like
Yes, for this
yeah,
year. Yeah,
for this year. All
and
right.
and two, in fairness to him, he was getting drug on X a lot with how he handled it. People were, of course, social media. You got just knee jerk reactions, but I can't imagine being in that position and trying to. I mean, because that assembly hall, they said that this year they had like 2,300 people there. So you've got 2,300 men in there, and I think at the same time, I don't know if this audio picks it up, but at the same time when Timothy was speaking, someone from the other side, or another part of the room yelled out or something. So he was having to call things to order. And I think too, Timothy being from Philadelphia and being a rapper. Now, I got to explain this. Before Timothy was saved, he was a rapper, but he was what they call a battle rapper. And if you don't know anything about battle rap, anybody ever seen the movie 8 Mile? Eminem, they go to what they call the basement. And they had those battle raps where it's basically you're tearing down your opponent to win a contest. Look, let me just put it out there. I grew up on hip hop. I'm a hip hop head. I know I don't look like it, and I don't necessarily speak like it. I suppress a lot of my uh, my hip hop culture, I guess you could say. But
You
anyway,
suppress it.
I do, I do.
When behind closed doors, his accent is completely
It's
different, actually.
no, it's not that it's different. I just kind of,
Oh,
But anyway, but I can turn the switch real quick. But anyway, but he used to go by the name Ambush because he looks kind of nerdy, and people don't expect it, and he would ambush his opponent and just come in and you know. So anyway,
okay. All
Not
right.
to
Well,
mention,
let's play the clip here, and it's going to be a little quiet, I think. So if people need to turn up their sound for a bit, we'll just let the clip play out. It's because it's not very long. You'll see him talk. He gets a little bit interrupted by the moderator, and then he finishes. And that's what caused all the discussion, was the fact that he got interrupted.
hmm
So here we go.
Fathers and brothers, we've heard various concerns.
Please introduce yourself.
Yes, thank you. Timothy Brindle, teaching elder, Olive Street Presbyterian Church. We've heard various concerns, but I have another one. It has to do with the director of M&A's stance on affinity groups and evenings for black worshipers. Brothers in Christ, James, under the inspiration of the Holy Spirit, says, "Show no partiality as you hold the faith in our Lord Jesus Christ, the Lord of glory." Friends, if the coordinator of M&A believes he's not safe in space with me because of the color of my skin, this is a denial of the sanctifying grace of the Lord Jesus Christ.
Microphone 6.
Yes, sir.
We ask you to speak with decorum and not in a way that is personally attacking. It is germane to bring up issues relative to this particular motion, but would ask you to speak in a more temperate way.
Sir, I'm not sure how more temperate I can be. I will seek to be as kind as possible.
Was there a point of order over here? Yes, the time has expired. There was some confusion last time if it was adding 5 or 10, but it will be up to your discretion if you want to add 5 more. So would someone like to move to add 5 more minutes to debate? So move, and there is support. I am going to...
So I think that's the end of where Timothy talks.
yeah.
Yeah.
Now, there's a key word he said there, and I think a lot of people kind of gloss over it. He said, "If the coordinator said." So he didn't outright just attack the guy. I don't think he attacked him. I think he's going off of what he knows, and he said, "If he truly said this, then." And notice too how Timothy led with Scripture. I mean, that's important too. Um, now I was told by someone close to Timothy that him and Kevin spoke that night at dinner. They smoothed things over. Everything's great. But here's the problem. Timothy didn't get to come back to the microphone. Nobody publicly saw that. People in attendance might have seen that. And maybe not even everybody in attendance, because who's to say everybody stays there for dinner? Some people might want to go out to Chattanooga in downtown and eat, because there's some great places to eat downtown Chattanooga. Some people may want to go back to their room and just crash. They're tired after being there all day and listening to all the overtures and things like that. Now, I did see where Zach kind of spoiled it, and I know Nicholas is going to talk about it, but he did handle it correctly according to Robert's Rule of Order, because that is what the General Assembly goes by. So, and again, like I said earlier, I couldn't do that job. And if you guys bring it up next week with Dr. Everhard, he'll tell you too, he wouldn't do that job. No, I couldn't handle that, because like you heard it, and they said there was a lot of murmuring and just different things going on, on the floor. And I'm sure the microphone didn't pick it all up, but I'm sure there was a lot of
Yeah.
just debate going on. So yeah.
And what people don't realize as well is Kevin DeYoung has a massive binder in front of him. He has
Hmm.
to keep that thing completely in order, know
Hmm.
what's coming next, know what just happened, know what's coming
Hmm.
after the second thing. He's got
Hmm.
people to his right and to his left trying to help keep him in order as well. He's got 1,000 things going on in his head.
Yep.
And we will get into this in a moment. But Kevin DeYoung actually handled this correctly.
Hmm.
But the problem is, people that are unfamiliar, like this had to be explained to me because I'm not familiar with PCA custom, how things operate
Yeah.
there until it was explained to me. So a lot of the people online who were not familiar with how the PCA run things thought basically Kevin DeYoung was just being a little bit liberal and trying to hush the guy up. But according to Robert's rules, whenever you bring up a point of order, you're not allowed to mention an individual at all. That's where this is where Kevin Brindle went wrong. He could have brought up and says, if someone feels like they need to have these, black only spaces, Chinese only spaces, Kevin DeYoung would have allowed the guy to continue. The problem was that this gentleman was named, and I forget his name. Kobe, what's his name again?
Um, Irwin Ince.
Ince, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. So it's because the gentleman was named in particular. That's why Kevin DeYoung had to cut him off, and then the clock naturally ran down. So, despite what people might initially think of how it was handled, according to how things should be handled according to the Roberts rules, Kevin DeYoung actually handled this very appropriately.
Hmm. Hmm.
So the tricky
Yeah.
thing about all of it, because I listened to a lot of Timothy Brindle talking with Matt Everhard,
That was a great interview.
what was challenging is that the whole vote was about a person. So how
Hmm.
do you not talk about a person if that's what the topic actually is? However, that what I do think is you might have picked up on it there, and I think this is where Kevin DeYoung was probably correct. You can't assign motives. Now, I think what you were saying, Kobe, is he didn't he didn't necessarily outright claim that this is what the person believes. He said if,
Hmm.
Hmm.
yeah,
But
but
there's a
still,
lot of indications
yeah.
that is what he believes.
Well, sure, but I think what I picked up on at least is he said something like, if he doesn't feel safe,
Hmm.
okay, he might have used if. However, that's basically implying he doesn't feel safe, and that's why he's doing the things he's doing, which is a motive. And that's where I think that might be where they were trying to delineate. Okay, that's going too far.
Hmm.
Right.
So I do kind of ultimately think, Nicholas, you're right that even though I think Timothy Brindle was very brave and
Hmm.
was calling out something that needed to be talked about. So I think it was great what he was doing. It's just how do you do it in a way that you're just very careful not to assign motives to a
Well,
person.
Zach actually answered us it here in the comments. If you want to bring it up, you are meant to directly address the moderator. The problem is he was also addressing Ince by assigning motive to him. So although this gentleman was the topic and they were voting, whether he should remain or not, it's a yes or a no vote. You don't get to come up and say, if this gentleman believes, if he this, that, and the other, because what you are now doing is you're going against the Roberts rules. You are making it personal versus just a simple yes no vote.
Mm.
Right, right.
Yeah, that's true. And like Zach said, but he wasn't wrong. And I think too, what a lot of the problem is, and this is something I've seen growing up. Like I was explaining earlier, me being, in the hip hop culture, if you will, or whatever. I have a lot of black friends, if you will. Um, but I think it doesn't help that Timothy's white. I mean, let's just call it what it is. If that would have been a fellow African American going up there and saying it, would it been as much of a dust up? Probably not. I know there's some things I see sometimes online or things I want to address, but I'm like, I probably shouldn't because I'm white and people won't know how to take it, or they'll automatically assume, well, he's a Christian, he's conservative, he must be a Trump supporter, he's a MAGA guy, and he hates all black people. Because that's, if you tell people you're a conservative here, and Timothy can attest to this, here in America, well, here in the South anyway, if you tell someone you're conservative or you're Republican leaning because you are conservative, automatically you hate everyone that's not white. That's just how it is, unfortunately. At least in the circles I'm in, as far as like day-to-day life, if you will. But I just wonder if things would have been a little different if Timothy hadn't been, white, even though Timothy's in the hip hop culture. And what I'm seeing on X too from um, a lot of people showing support for Ince are mainly African American people. So it's almost like it's a racial divide, and people showing support for Brindle are white people. Um, and I think it doesn't help too that, Vody Baucham wrote that book, Fault Lines, where he went after the woke agenda. And Timothy, if you're not aware, put out an album based on Fault Lines. So I think he gets linked up with that, and people just don't, they don't, they just don't accept what he says now. And I think part of it is too, and maybe I'm reaching here, I don't know, but there is a Christian hip hop artist named Shy Lynn. I don't know, Nicholas, you know who he is. I don't know if Timothy, if you know who he
Haven't
is.
listened to him in years, but I used to
Yeah.
when I was younger.
Yeah, he's very theological, very good rapper, and him and Timothy were best friends. They had a falling out over the whole race issue. Shy wrote an article for the Gospel Coalition called George Floyd and Me. Um, that caused some strife, and there's just been some behind the scenes stuff that I don't want to go into. But anyway, so a lot of people in the Christian hip hop sphere have kind of turned on Brindle, and because he wrote a song on that album Fault Lines called "A Letter to My Friend," and the way it starts out is "A letter to my friend, dear Shy Lynn," and then he goes in on some issues that they have, and it's nothing private. It was things that were public. I mean,
Yeah.
so it's not like he exposed anything that wasn't already known. Because he's got a song on his very first album called "A Letter to My Friends," and it's when he got saved, and he wrote a song to his fellow rappers that he used to run with before he got saved, that he had to, break friendships with them because he couldn't be a part of that scene anymore because, he's now a Christian and they weren't, and he couldn't represent, what they stood for as a Christian. So this is, and in hip hop style, that's what you do. You take it to wax, as they say. But again, I'm showing my age. It's what they used to say in the '80s. Put it on wax. But anyway, Shy wanted him to write the foreword to his book, because Shy's got a book out called New Reformation, and talking about it needs to be. I've got it on my shelf. If I could find it, I need to read it. I've not read it. Yeah.
I might
But
have it.
anyway,
It's possible I do.
yeah, I'm trying to see if it's within easy
Because if
reach.
they
I don't
gave
want
it
to.
out at one of the conferences, I might have gotten it.
I don't think they would have. I know I've got it. I just don't see it over there. Trying to see. I can Google what the name of it is, but anyway,
Yeah.
so there's some of that, I think. So, but I like I say, I just wonder if he hadn't. Oh, it's called the New Reformation, Finding Hope.
Got it
Oh,
right
come
here.
on.
Oops, except
Oh.
the coupon code came up when I was trying to show it.
Finding
Right here.
Hope in the Fight for Unity
Finding
for
Hope.
Ethnic Unity. Yeah,
Yep,
there you go.
right there.
So I just wonder if he hadn't have been who he was as a white man if it would have been a little bit different. I just think there's a lot of things
Do
that
you
have
do you think?
transpired.
Yeah, I agree with a lot of what you're saying here because and I'll try to talk about this a little bit
Mhm.
in a few minutes here. What I think is a subtext, which I think is what you're getting at. It's not
Mhm.
just what is being said; it's what is it's what's underneath the surface,
Yes,
and
yes,
it's
yes,
like the vibe of different groups that are really at odds. That
yes.
being said, I do think some of the people that are like I'm thinking of Bodhi Bakum, for example. Um, Sometimes even if black people say things, they're still looked at as being almost traitors
Hmm.
to the side they should be on.
Hmm.
So it
Yeah,
it it kind of it's very political.
it is. It's and say that's the next thing. And what I was going to go to next is there back in February, and I've got it here on the Christian Post. This article, Ince was a speaker at a fellowship dinner at Res Oak. It says Black Fellowship Dinner, Friday, February 21st, 6:30 to 8:30. An evening with our special speaker, Reverend Dr. Erwin Ince, for our Black worshipers at Res Oak and their families. Connect with and encourage one another as we cap off our month long celebration of Black History Month with Rich Fellowship. And I have mixed emotions on that. See, I'm of the mindset of history should be known by everyone. I don't think we need to do away with our America's bad history. Was did we come in and do terrible things to the indigenous people? Yes, we did. We don't need to forget that. We need to know what we did, and we need to properly teach people this is not how you treat other people who are made in the image of God. We are all made in the image of God. There's only one race. It's the human race. We're all just different ethnic, ethnic groups. The word race is a human word. It's something that we came up with as sinners. Now, that doesn't mean racism doesn't exist. Um, there is white racists, there is black racists, there is Hispanic racists, there's whatever. And I was saying before we got on, I don't care what kind of racist you are. Put me in a room with you for 5 minutes. I do not tolerate that whatsoever. You are, and sorry, I don't want to get too fired up. But anyway, I don't. It doesn't say that white people aren't welcome, but as a white person, would you feel welcome reading that, thinking, "Well, I can go to that"?
Hmm.
Well, no, it says it's for our black worshipers.
Yeah. Well, replace that with anything. Like if you said for Chinese worshippers, for
When now to that point, if it's a language barrier, I have no problem
Yep.
yeah,
because that's different. But
that
we
is. But
all speak English now.
mhm.
Can you imagine? Just imagine this for a minute. That I'm going to have a night at my church where we're going to, for the month of July, where we're going to celebrate American history, and it's for the white worshipers. Can you
And
imagine how
Mhm.
well that would? I would never do that. Just, let me just say that people, so people don't take this clip and say that guy's a racist. Um, but can you imagine? And there should be outcry for that. I mean, because that's ridiculous.
Yeah.
But we, you take this skin off, and we're all the same. Vody, and it's on that Fault Lines album where he says, "Don't you think that God loves me more than He loves you just because He gave me more melanin than you?" And of course, the audience laughs, and all that, because to me, Vody handles things quite well the way he speaks on race. Now, do
Mhm.
I agree with everything Vody says? No. Do I agree with everything Nicholas says? No.
Yes.
But I mean, but that's the thing. We're not ever going to agree with everything everybody says.
No.
And that's another thing. People think, well, you're supporting Vody, so you must hate black people, even though he's black. And I'm like, seriously, guys, come on. We've got, I want to know when there came a time where you could be on this side of the political line and you could be on this side and you could say, well, I voted for this person. I voted for this person. Oh, okay, cool. It's not like that anymore. Oh, you voted for that person and you voted for that. Well, you hate me and I hate you. And that's how it is. And
Mhm.
we're going to pitch fits. We're going to have parades. We're going to have these demonstrations because we hate this guy so much that we want him booted out of here. And it's like, what? I've never seen, and of course, social media doesn't help. And the fact that we have these things now where we can basically, we have news at our fingertips. I don't even watch the news anymore. I check the weather, see if I'm going to need an umbrella or not. That's all I worry about. But anyway, but back to this. But it says that Res Oak held another Black History Month event Saturday that was open to all races, during which Ince delivered a lecture on race justice and theology. Now, the thing is, they had one that welcomed everyone, but then they had another that was segregated. But yet, if you go on X, there's certain African American folks that talk about segregated worship a lot and how much they hate it, but yet
Yep.
they supported that. My church is primarily white. We do have some Hispanics that come. I wish that it wasn't primarily white. I don't know why it is. I don't know if there's. It just blows my mind. I don't know what people are going to do. Heaven's not going to be segregated, neither is hell. So wherever you wind up, you're going to wind up next to someone you don't like, quote unquote. Which you're in heaven, you ain't going to have to worry about that because you're not. If you're a racist, I don't think you're going to get into heaven because
James,
the Bible. Do
sorry.
what?
Yeah, sorry. I just need. I'll be back in a second.
Yeah,
Okay.
because the Bible clearly says that how can you love, God who you've never seen, but you can't love your brother who's standing in front of you.
Mm-hmm.
You
Yeah.
know, and I know that like I was showing my Bible earlier, and I know different cultures. Like if you go to China, you're going to see a Chinese Jesus. If you go to Africa, you're going to see an African Jesus. If you go to
Mm-hmm.
Mexico, you're going to see it's whatever the culture is. But I don't know what people are going to do. I mean, just read the Bible. He was a Middle Eastern Jew who walked everywhere he went, and it was hot over there, and still is. It's the desert. I mean, pretty sure Jesus is going to have pretty good tan when he comes back. Um, he's and not being derogatory, but they said there was nothing attractive about him, so he probably wasn't what they would consider a nice looking man. By physical human eyes.
Mm-hmm.
So this long-haired hippie-looking Jesus that white America or white evangelicals have came up with, no, that's not what he's going to look like. Nor is he going to be Asian or whatever. He's going to have Jewish Middle Eastern features about him. So people are going to have to get over it.
I'll tell you, hearing you say all this stuff, you know, I'm seeing. Obviously, there's been stuff on the left side politically that has, really been very race focused
Hmm.
in ways that I think are detrimental, which is what you're speaking
Hmm.
to.
Hmm.
But it's also starting to happen a lot on the farther on the right, the far
Oh, it
right.
is. It is.
And it's just sad, but it's nothing new.
No, no.
The scripture deals with this.
Hmm.
In the early church, they
Hmm.
struggled with sectarianism and
Hmm.
with looking down. And now, obviously, one of the ways in which they did that was economics. James talking about you're showing partiality because if a
Yep.
rich person enters, you're going to treat them really nicely, but if a poor person enters, you're
Yep.
treating them differently. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah.
I'm
Um,
going to get Nicholas back on here. Hey,
I'm back.
Nicholas.
Hello. I'm
yeah.
back.
And the neighborhood that I live in, when my wife and I we bought this house, We didn't research anything. We just knew where it was. We loved the house. We wanted it. We bought it. I'd say 90% of the neighborhood I'm in is Hispanic. I don't care. It's fine with me.
Mhm.
You know, I wouldn't have thought, if I would have known that beforehand, I still would have been like, okay, I want the house. I mean,
There you go.
it's not a big deal. Um, it just, I don't understand. Racism to me is just one of those things I just cannot wrap my mind around. I don't
Mhm.
understand how someone can look at someone else knowing that they were made in the image of God and not love that person. Now, is it hard to love people? Well, sure it is. I know I'm hard to love. My wife's in the other room. I can go in there and get her, and I'm sure she'll tell you that I'm hard to love some days. I can call up one of my kids. My son would be more than happy to tell you that I'm hard to love some days. But no, I mean, I just don't understand how people can do those type things. Cannot love someone because they look differently than them. You know, I've experienced, and of course, when I say this, people say, "Well, no, that wasn't racism." I used to wear, and I don't know if either one of you gentlemen remember, there used to be a clothing brand called FUBU,
Mm.
which stood for us, by us. It was made by African Americans. It was made by rappers and different people. And I had a FUBU shirt, and I wore it to work one day, and I had a black lady approach me and said, "Why are you wearing that shirt?" I said, "Because I like it and I bought it." I was confused, and she said, "Do you know what that means?" I said, "Yeah, for us by." She goes, "Right, for us by us. You're not supposed to be wearing it." And I'm like, "Okay, well, I'm going to wear it." Well, I told some of my black friends, when I went back to my desk, and of course they were dying laughing. They were like, "Oh, she don't know what she's doing," whatever. But she didn't have anything to do with me from that point on. She didn't, you know. And I'm like, and I told her, I said, "Well, I'm sure that the owners of FUBU don't care." I said, "They don't look at me as a white man. They look at me as giving them green. That
Mhm.
the only color they see is green. They're making money, because that was an expensive sweatshirt at the time." But I'm like, what does it matter? I mean, it's what's the big deal here? I mean, it's just fashion at this point. But you're having a problem with it because me as a white man am wearing it.
Mhm.
Um, but if a white person said that to a black person, it'd be like, well, he's a racist. Well, was she being racist to me for saying that? Well, no. Why not? What's the difference? See, people don't understand that it's like only white people can be racist.
Well, that's the narrative they try to push, but
Right, but that's not the truth.
no.
Racism comes from everyone, and and and, and I don't care. Like I said, I don't care which side it leans on. If Timothy was in the wrong here, I'd be railing against Timothy on this. I would have no qualms about doing that. But I don't feel like he was in the wrong on this because I get the Roberts Rule of Order and things like that. But I appreciate that the discussion, because the discussion needs to be had.
Hmm.
Uh, but it wasn't just he brought up that point, but other people bringing up the point. Evidently, they weren't financially stable the past year, and there was some questions on they didn't do things like they were supposed to, and so it was more of a character question. So to me, Timothy was addressing even further into the man's character.
Hmm.
Um, but like I said, the Robert Rule of Order and all that. So that's where it kind of you
Yeah,
know, got out of
it's
pocket, if you will.
it's tricky because in that
Hmm.
situation, what he is meant to do is like I couldn't put it in the right words right now, but he could basically the way something like that would have to be said is I am worried about the fact that we lost X amount this year because now
Hmm.
you're just addressing the topic, you're not addressing the person that's running it. And
Right.
we can all sit here and say in hindsight this is what Timothy should have done.
Right.
The problem is when you're in that situation, you're raising a point that is concerning
Hmm.
because Zach and I talked about this in our space as well. Timothy was right. but unfortunately, because of the Robert's Rules of Order, he wasn't right in how he said it, because he would
Hmm.
have had to have withdrew the personal nature, even though he wasn't being personal as in like a personal attack. But that's why Kevin DeYoung had to step in and basically say, look, you cannot talk about someone personally, get to the
Right.
point of order. So
Right.
I think that's the confusion for most people. And I think
Yeah.
for most people online that were reacted negatively to it, I don't think they understood that those rules are in place. So I think they just
Hmm.
thought, oh, here's Kevin DeYoung just cutting this man off because it's an issue of race.
Right. Right.
Because essentially that's what Doug Wilson's criticism was. He basically
Hmm.
tried to say Kevin DeYoung's going down a very liberal route. And
Yeah,
it's like, well,
let's
no, he's not.
let's let's
Yeah.
talk about exact. You're hitting exactly on what I wanted to hit on, Nicholas. First of all, Doug
I know
Wilson.
you, Tim.
He, yeah, he
Yeah. He's not a lightning rod or anything. Let's just
no,
bring
no,
him up now.
he never stirs up controversy ever. So, his title was shushed by the moderator. And I didn't read this all the way, but I did listen a lot to a video he did about the
Yeah, I
topic.
listened to the video
And
too.
I
Yeah.
seem to remember him saying, because this was a little while ago that I watched it, that, there is like that Kevin DeYoung is being influenced by what does he call it? Like the
The
liberal
progressive
glare. I
drift.
can't think of the word,
Progressive.
Yeah,
but
and I
it's a
think
glare,
Doug.
right? He might
Yeah,
even
and
say it right here because
I think Doug has
um,
an axe to grind with Kevin anyway, because Kevin wrote that article called "The Moscow Mood," which it's
right,
brought
true.
more light
That
to. Anytime
okay,
you
so
talk about Doug Wilson, yeah.
that's hitting on something that is exactly what I was getting at. What you just said. There's subtext. So
Hmm.
instead of Doug Wilson just commenting objectively, he's got a
Hmm.
personal situation that he's been affected by with
Hmm.
Kevin DeYoung. And then
Hmm.
and I paused here on the article because there's a screenshot of Megan Basham responding to the situation. So Paul Bigler, I don't know who that is. He said watch Timothy Brindle's full floor speech in which he was chastised, which is, I think, a mischaracterization by the
Yeah, I do
moderator,
too.
Reverend Kevin DeYoung, for lacking decorum, personally attacking Irwinites, and speaking with intemperance. So, because he says that, when he explains it, then Megan Basham, she probably doesn't know all of the context and the nuances of the
Right.
situation. So she says, I like Kevin DeYoung, but these were perfectly temperate remarks. This man deserves applause for his courage and conviction. Well, Megan Basham is known for being very like she's she's
Brash.
one of those fighters when it comes to
Yeah, should be
conservative
Megan
values.
Brasham.
Yeah, so there's subtext to this. That's why I said earlier it's very
Hmm.
political, which is what
Yeah.
you were hitting on too. So it's really people taking sides a lot of times based on, and I think Nicholas was just hinting at that too. It's people taking sides um,
Well,
based on.
Some
I don't know if it
someone's
was you
asked a
that said it.
question. Someone asked a question. I want to just answer it real quick.
Yeah.
Tony said PCA is American Presbyterians. Yes, it's the Presbyterian Church in America, Tony, not to be confused with the Presbyterian Church, the PCUSA.
mhm.
We're can I be?
Completely different.
You're not going to find rainbow flags in our churches where you will in theirs. Sorry, RZ. Um,
So if I get my way at some point, and I do have RZ on,
mm.
uh, um, will you still watch my channel anymore,
Oh,
Douglas?
I'll watch. Yeah, yeah, 100%. I'll watch it. Yeah. I mean, I don't
I'm not
agree
even
with
sure
him. I mean,
Nicholas is going to show up as a co-host that day
I
if I
will.
have RZ on.
yeah, I thought that's what you was about to ask me if I would come on too and be like, I don't know that I'd go that far because he not that I wouldn't talk to him, but I'm
I'll
not as
watch, but I'm not gonna. Yeah.
well, no, I'm not as educated as him, and I feel like sometimes
Uh,
if you notice when I get on topic of something, my brain goes quicker than my mouth, and I sometimes can't get words out very eloquently. So, of course, part of that's my good Southern English. So
There you
I
go.
think
No, that's
Zach probably has understood everything I said, being a good Southern gentleman himself.
uh,
So,
I think you do great. You're a great communicator. But I know what you're saying. But back to the specific question,
yeah, sorry.
PCA, we do have to say this a lot on this channel when we're talking about
Mhm.
Presbyterians, because you guys have two denominations that sound almost exactly the same. PCA
Right. And
is
PCUSA.
conservative. That's
Yes.
conservative.
Yes.
PCUSA is the mainline denomination that's been around a long time,
Hmm.
that for many years has trended liberal. And actually, we've talked about this on the channel. Matt Everhard did a debate with Redeem Zoomer as to
Yep.
whether it
Yep.
was wise for the PCA to form back in the day with
Right. Right.
the situation in the PCUSA. So anyway,
Yep. I watched
sorry, I
that.
know that's hard to keep straight, everybody, but
Yeah.
Kobe is part of the conservative denomination.
Yes. Yes. If you
Sorry
see a
about
rainbow
that. I
flag
need to
from
hear
me,
it one more
Tony.
time.
Yeah. Tony, if you do see a rainbow flag from me, it will be celebrating God's covenant with Noah. If you see one in their church, it's because they probably have a lesbian pastor. No joke.
Yep. We keep losing Nicholas. I'm trying
He
to.
got a phone call. He was
Yeah,
saying
there we
he'd
go.
be right back. Yeah.
I'm doing like multitasking here, which I always tell people I'm horrible at,
Yeah.
where I'm trying to do the screen while I'm also talking to you
Hey,
guys.
you do a good job, man. You do.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, and I'm trying to
Yeah.
read comments, and then yeah.
So
Zach, I told you Zach understood me. He said we don't speak English, we speak Southern.
that's right. Well, I understand you. I do have um, family that is more. I mean, they're actually my parents are from South Florida, which I know is its own thing. It's not
Hmm.
really like the South per se.
Yeah,
However,
it's just the North and
however,
the South. Yeah.
yeah, there is definitely, like, even in Florida, overlap
Yeah.
with the South. Um, yeah.
We're getting
So
that way here
someone's
somewhat,
asking
and
here another question. I think that we can answer that. I'm not sure if he was directing it at us, but to put it in terms I
yeah.
can understand, PCUSA is equivalent of the United Methodist Church, and
Yes,
PCA is a equivalent of, I think that's the Global Methodist Church,
probably,
which is
and you
more
could say
conservative.
yes,
Yeah,
yes.
that would
Yep.
be, if you're in the Methodists, that would be more of an equivalent. Yeah, so Redeem Zoomer is who, when we talk about RZ, he's a young
Hmm.
man that, like you said, he is more, he's definitely a northerner.
Yeah, he is. But he seems like a genuinely good guy, though. He really does. Um,
Yeah, but he can be abrasive,
he
um,
can. He can.
and
But
and
he's just
yeah,
passionate about what he believes in, so I get it.
yeah. Oh, I think Nicholas is ready to come
Yep.
back.
Oh,
There he is.
I've been long back.
I'm sorry, Nicholas. Can I come back? No,
No, my
that's two times.
unfortunately,
Three times you're out.
yeah, unfortunately, family ringing with tech problems,
No,
and
I'm kidding.
I cannot have
I'll
this.
always let you back in, Nicholas.
Oh,
You
I know.
can. We've all got things. Sometimes I probably will have to leave, and you carry the show, Nicholas. um.
Well,
All right.
obviously, I had you guys muted for a second, so what did I miss?
We were just talking about PCA versus PCUSA, and then again Redeem Zoomer. I think you caught the basic topic before you left.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Um, so we've I think we've covered everything, all the details of the Timothy Brindle situation. The one thing I'll just say is, if you still are curious about the situation or interested in it, go to Dr. Matthew Everhard's channel, Matt
Yes.
Everhard, and watch his interview with Timothy Brindle. That'll give
Yep.
you kind of that inside information as to what Timothy was trying to do and why.
Hmm.
Hmm.
Um, and basically, the issue, this is kind of where we were at in the discussion. It really is getting into the politics of, like, you know, there are people out there saying we should focus on race, and there are
Hmm.
people out there saying we should not focus on that. And what ends up, and what I'm hearing you say a lot, Kobe, is there's an inconsistency there.
Mhm.
That
There is on
we
both
want to focus
sides.
on race when we're trying to protect our group, but then
Hmm.
with you guys, anytime you raise anything, it's just racist.
Yes, and there's a lot of there's a Christian hip hop artist named The Apologist. He's putting out a remix to the song tomorrow, but he put out a song, I don't know, about a month or so ago, called "The Missing Link." I think is the name of it. Let me look here. Do-do-do-do.
So I'm not sure as you're doing that,
Yeah,
someone.
it's called "The Missing Link," and what it is, he's Puerto Rican, and he's in the Presbyterian Church of America. He's PCA, and he go at the end of his song, he said, "I blame Jamar Tisby, I blame Vody Bacham, I blame Anthony Bradley, I blame Virgil Walker, I blame Daryl Harrison, I blame Megan Basham." He names all these people, and he says, "And I blame myself." Because, like he said, there's one group that denies that there is systematic racism, and then there's another group that says there's racism everywhere, and then there's another group that says, there's a lot of extremes. There's no balance, and people talk past each other.
Yeah.
Nobody takes the time to listen to each other, and that's part of the problem too. Is that nobody wants to have these hard conversations and talk about them logically. They just want to get their point across, and then that's it. There's no, you know, no, we got to meet in the middle and figure out how to solve this. Um, Now, and I've seen some people complain too about, like, if you come to my church Sunday, you're going to hear congregational singing. We've got an acoustic guitar, we've got a violin, we've got a piano, an organ, drums, electric guitar, bass guitar, nothing crazy. Congregational singing. We got people on stage that kind of lead it, but it's, I've been to black churches. I told you the reason why this sticks in my craw um, is the church I grew up in was a white church, and it was right across the street from my house. And we had this couple that they kept requesting prayer for his sister and her boyfriend. He said, they both need to be saved, blah, blah, blah. And well, they came into church one Sunday. She was white, he was black. And I specifically remember hearing one of the deacons walk up to the pastor after church and told him he needed to tell that black person, but he didn't say black person, that he didn't need to come back to church there because they were in sin being black and white. Now, the pastor said, whoa, 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 hold on for a minute. He goes, I haven't never encountered this before. He was an older guy. He goes, the thing is, he goes, if that is a sin, he goes, which I don't think it is, because it just caught him off guard and he didn't have time to, process. He goes, their souls are what's important here. He said, we need to, make sure, there's a conversion here. We need to give them the gospel, and if there's some sort of sin, we'll address that later. Well, anyway, ended up the church split. Of course, he, come to find out, as we all know, there's no, God doesn't look down on the intermingling of races, if you will, or whatever, as people say, interracial marriages. Matter of fact, Moses' wife was Ethiopian. And what did God do for the fine folks giving Moses a hard time about his wife? He struck them with leprosy. So I would venture to say that God doesn't mind a white person marrying a black person, or, so just anyway. So that I was probably 18, 19 years old when that happened. So we ended up, our church would meet with other churches, but we would meet with black churches and we would have services together. We'd go to their church. They would come to our church. They would lead the worship. We would lead the worship. Their pastor would preach. Our pastor would preach. So that just, and I'm sitting there thinking, this is it. This is, but for me at the time, that was nothing new for me to see because I hung out with all black people at the time anyway, or mostly black people. But, I was like, this is how it's supposed to be,
Mhm.
And I just saw, joy in people that I'd went to church with my whole life that I'd never seen before, because I feel like it's something they'd always wanted, but they didn't know whether or not they could say anything about it or not, because they didn't know who would take what.
Mm-hmm.
Because, like I said, this is the South, and you don't ever know what people think, you know. Um,
Mm.
but like I said, that's why it bothers me. That's one thing that always gets me fired up is
Yeah.
racism, and I get very passionate about it. Of course, I've been called a I don't know if I'm allowed to say this word on here. It's um, a wigger, if you know what that is.
Mm.
I've been told that I am just loving. I'm a
Mm.
N-word lover.
Mm.
Um, you know, and this is from Christians
Mm-hmm.
telling me these things, telling me, I don't need to, mingle with people of the other race, things like this, what about my race? And I'm like, oh, it just, I don't know. Anyway, but we need to get back on.
Yeah.
I mean, it's kind of part of it, but kind of not. But
No,
yeah,
no. I think you're, and this is what Timothy Brindle is, I think, kind of hitting on is like we don't want to over accentuate
yes,
our differences when the scripture is telling us that as God's people, we're not
that's
to
our
be showing
commonality. Yes.
partiality and we're supposed to be, yeah. Now,
And,
I
and
do,
what's he supposed to do? Like, what if he would have been in Oakland, him and his family, and they would have went to that dinner? Timothy's wife could have went, right? But could his
yeah,
children? Could his children have went?
right, yeah.
Think
Well,
about it, because they're mixed, right? Their
Yeah.
father's white, their mother's black. Could they have went to that? Would they have been welcome?
well, the thing
Mm.
with all of it anyway is it makes no sense. Like, no church needs to segregate that way because
No,
God does not have black worshippers. He does not have white worshippers. He does not have yellow worshippers. He has
that's right.
worshippers. So if you're in a church and you're hosting a night for black only worshippers or white only worshippers or yellow only worshippers or whatever skin color, purple, Barney the dinosaur,
Mm.
what's the point of that? What point does it serve?
Yeah, and if you're saying you're not trying to cause division, then what are you trying to do?
Yeah, but
But
that, that what does it
meanwhile,
serve?
though,
Nothing.
what we're facing in America is an increasing white focus and protective instinct arising, where
Hmm.
you actually have more and more people really saying America, you know, should be white essentially. I mean that's
Yeah,
how some people are trying to frame it, or that I don't know. So it's getting to be really tough.
it
With,
is. It is.
but before we continue on with this, I've been looking at this comment for a while, and it's funny because this is Tony. He said, as George Bernard Shaw once said, "Britain and America, two countries divided by a common language." And then a
Mm.
couple comments down, he says, "I'm assuming there's been a bit of handbags in the PCA." I don't know what he's talking about. Interpret for
So,
me, Nicholas.
well, handbags over here basically means you would say, "Oh, handbags at dawn." Little old ladies fighting with their handbags. So it's it's a
You might find
humorous
men. You
way.
might find men carrying handbags in the PCUS. Sorry.
Well, no, no.
It's man bags.
Basically, what if someone ever said, "Oh, handbags at dawn" over
Mm.
here? It's a way to. It's when guys are basically
Fighting.
not fist fighting, but
Right.
bickering like
Arguing.
women.
Yeah.
So
Bickering. Yeah.
someone will playfully insult and go, "Oh, handbags at dawn."
Yeah.
So
I got you. Makes sense.
I
Sorry.
thought that was so
yeah,
funny
yeah, no,
that
no,
he said we're separated by by a common language,
It's
and
true.
then he said something I didn't understand. So maybe that was intentional. Good job,
well,
Tony. Just illustrating your point there. But we got Nicholas to uh, bridge the gap for us and
Yeah.
do the interpretation, multicultural interpretations.
That's right.
Thank you.
well, as I say,
Yes.
handbags is one that we would use a lot, and it's just basically, yeah. Tony says 100%. It's just basically just a very humorous way of trying to settle things down and be like, "Would you stop bickering like old women?" Basically.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes. Well, we also have Twitter, or X, I should say now, right?
Uh,
That's just constant handbagging,
yes.
or
Of
whatever
course,
it's
it's
called.
also people, they say things on X that they wouldn't dare say to your face. So, you know,
Yes. Um, well, I think we've covered the topic very thoroughly, and since we started late, I know I'm going to have to get going real soon here. You guys probably do as well. So we're going to wrap up, but I do want to, of course, thank the audience for great interaction, and just really great to see your just talking, just the things that you've included in our conversation contributed. But also,
mhm.
thanks so much to Kobe. Like I said, joining us last minute, he was ready to go,
Mhm.
and really helpful to hear your perspective because you're really in that circle right there in the PCA,
Mhm.
and then also this topic clearly is really important to you.
It is.
So we really appreciate you being with us today.
Yeah,
And
100%. Anytime.
Well, we'll have you
thank
back,
you so
brother.
much. Yeah, and we'll find another topic. I'm sure that will. What's the expression you keep using? Something about a crawl
I'll get stuck in my crawl.
stuck in your. Yeah.
Yeah, Zach knows
Well,
what I'm talking about.
Oh yeah, stuck
yeah.
in the
Well,
throat.
Yep.
what did you say, Nicholas?
It just means stuck in the throat. We would say
Yep.
similar. That like that's really sticking in my throat.
My cat just came in.
I feel like I'm really getting a linguistic lesson today. I don't know what anybody's saying. I don't say stuck in the throat either.
Yeah.
Um,
It's all right,
I
Tim.
don't know.
Not only will we convert you, we'll educate you.
Educate,
Yeah.
yes.
Have you not ever had something that you don't quite choke on it, but you can feel it in your throat? You
It's
can't
going
just
down the
quite.
wrong way.
Yeah. Yeah. It's stuck in
Yeah.
your crawl. Yeah.
Okay.
So
Well,
there you
we'll
go.
find another topic that has that effect on you, stuck in your crawl.
Yeah.
Uh, and of course, thanks to Nicholas, always giving us great insights and keeping track of the chat better than I do.
Uh,
Yeah,
I
I
kind of.
try and drift over to it works better when we have a guest because you're able to interact with the guests. I can interact with the
Yeah.
audience. It works well.
I can
Yeah,
tell
the
you
only
one
thing
that
is I'm trying to also do the screen sometime. So, we need a fourth person to behind the scenes. That would be awesome.
Well,
uh,
we won't next week. I'll have my Mac, so I'll be able to
Oh,
multitask
that's so
better.
great.
Anyway,
I,
sorry, Kobe, you were going to say something.
I was just going to say another one that bothers me is people telling Baptists that they're not Reformed,
Oh, yeah.
especially my Presbyterian brothers.
Ooh.
Uh,
Hey, that's a good
yeah,
topic for next time we have you on. You can
I
you
mean,
can help you
Bring
can
bring
help
Colton on as well.
yeah,
yeah,
there
bring
you go.
Colton on. Yeah, I have 100%. I have Colton's back on that.
Oh,
It just stop, just stop.
yeah.
You know,
Now, I want to say it might be Colton I saw that calls himself a confessional Baptist, which I
yeah,
think
Particular.
is a good
and
that's a
there's a
good
such
term, right?
thing. There is a such
Yeah.
thing. I know of in Chattanooga. There's two Reformed Baptist churches that they are 1689 Reformed Baptist. Their services look just like my Presbyterian services, except from when they have a baptism, they duck. When we have one, we sprinkle. And ours might be an infant, and theirs is someone that's professed faith. Other than that, the services look exactly
Hmm.
alike. So and two, talking about Matt Everhard, he had a video one time where he compared his liturgy to Jeffrey Rice's liturgy.
Hmm.
And of course, you guys know who Jeff Rice is in the
Mhm.
rebinding
Hmm.
world, post Tenebris
Yes.
Lux, but he is also the pastor of a Reformed 1689 Reformed Baptist church. And their liturgy looks a lot like the liturgy of my church, which his is Reformed Baptist, mine's Presbyterian. So there you go.
That's great. Well, I really enjoy interacting with a lot of you guys. I'm in a kind of a precarious spot, theologically. I don't really call myself Reformed, and I've never like historically been part of
Hmm.
confessional Baptist churches, but that's who I rub shoulders with a lot.
Yeah.
Uh, and I think that the Reformed uh, churches and Christians.
Get you
Oh yeah,
one.
there you go. I got to get one of the. I do have this,
Do you have the
which
founder's version? Oh, that's good.
right.
That's
Yeah,
good.
that's good.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, but yeah, and I really appreciate those things very much.
Yeah.
Sometimes, like with any group, there are things that can be um, hard to stomach from the outside. That
Oh
like
yeah.
some of the
100%.
conversations that are happening in the Reformed world, which never seems to apply to the people I talk directly with,
Hmm.
but sometimes I'll see things on X that I'm a little bit like,
I
oof.
tell people this all the time. Not only don't get your theology from X, but don't listen to the end talking either, because like it's normally a
Mhm.
very very niche thing and it doesn't apply
It's
outside of that.
I think one of the
Hmm.
topics, and I told Nicholas this, and by the way, we keep teasing that we're going to talk about it someday, eschatology. And in the
Mm.
Reformed community, sometimes there's just this harshness against anybody who has a more dispensational view. And I get it.
Yep.
The
Yep.
extreme dispensationalists, there's crazy stuff for sure.
Oh, there is.
But,
There is.
but there are also dispensationalists that are very measured and very, they have a very reasoned approach to scripture that
Yep.
I wish, and I don't actually think that's even a reformed issue per se. I mean, I get that the reformed historically didn't hold to dispensationalism, but there have been reformed people, I believe, who had a dispensational theology. Is that true? That some have?
I
I don't
don't
know of
know any
any.
off the top of my
You
head.
don't know any. Okay, so I'm wrong on
Yeah.
No, no,
that.
no, no,
Most.
no. That doesn't mean
No.
you're wrong. I'm just saying I
Yeah.
don't know any.
Most good reformed
Yeah,
people are going to be either post mill or ah mill. And if
that's
you want to be
true. I
correct, you're
was
going to be
thinking
post
like
mill.
I thought maybe there were Presbyterians, for example, that were dispensational.
No.
You don't think
Very,
so?
yeah,
So
no.
my job now is to research that and see if that's true.
Mm,
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
regardless, I don't mind even if that's separate from the Reformed category
Yeah.
altogether, because I get it. Covenant theology that becomes a difficult mix. I totally understand,
Right.
but nevertheless, it's just the X tends to draw a lot of harshness,
X
and
brings out the
like
worst
I
in people.
yeah, like I said, I kept seeing posts because X the algorithm thought I wanted to see them. That dispensationalism is finally dead, and it's just like really harsh.
mm.
So uh anyway, we'll talk about eschatology another time.
Yeah, we will. It's just it's a huge topic, and I would just rather like I know my own position pretty well, but the issue with doing a show like this is you in that moment you become the representative of that position. So I
Hmm.
don't want to come on and say something and people be like, "We don't believe that he's saying this."
Yeah.
That's inevitably going to happen anyway, because even within my own camp, there are people that disagree on smaller issues, but overall, we should agree. I just want to be prepared for, because I know there's going to be people watching and they'll be like, "Hey,
Uh huh.
I'm a post mill guy. I don't believe
Yeah.
that."
And I don't
So
think that way. Yeah.
yeah,
Bring up Zach's
Now,
comment.
yeah,
Yep. There
I'm
you
just
go.
I'm just about to. Disby was propagated by a Presby minister in the 1800s. It's not a Presby thing though. That I understand that.
Yeah.
What I'm curious is how did he reconcile what he believed as a Presbyterian? Like, did he believe in covenant theology? How did that mix with dispensational theology? I'm very curious. So now I do need
Yeah.
to do some more research on that.
you do, because I
And
don't think
Zach is a optimistic ah meal. In other words, he's a closet post meal.
Yep, he's on his way. Don't worry.
Yeah.
Isn't that
Keep
what Matt
performing,
Everhart
Zach.
is too?
Hmm.
Yeah. Yep. Yep. You're just a closet post meal.
Okay.
Just come on out.
Okay, I'm pre-mill. I'm on record. I
So
know you're not surprised at
So's
that, but
so's Leslie. She's pre-mill.
yeah,
I
yeah.
saw her
Mhm.
post that. Yeah.
all right. Well, I look forward to talking about that on another episode. But we've got other things coming up. Matt Everhard next week,
I'm looking
and
forward to that.
possibly another author coming on in a couple weeks, talking about abolishing abortion. So interesting stuff. And again, thank you so much, everybody, for joining us today. We're gonna let you go now, but we'll see you next week.
God bless,
Bye.
folks.
Bye, everybody.